there were so many scenes from last night before the president, former president, arrived, and then after. One of the things that struck me, they had what they call the everyday Americans who were speaking, and then something that in 121 years had never happened. The president of the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, takes the stage, and while it was not a full-on 100% endorsement, it spoke volumes that the president of one of the largest unions would be there to speak. And then what struck me, Gerard, was that President Trump and the entire delegation that was in that VIP box, they stood for that entire speech. They never sat down. What did that signal to you?
Yeah, that's interesting that you observed that, because so did we. With the other members of the delegation there, we were discussing that as well. And I was kind of turning my head back and forth, from watching there, as you say, the VIP box, and then in the other direction, Mr. O'Brien on the stage. It's my understanding, talking to Frank Bordeaux, the former chairman of the Mississippi GOP, ran into him last night after the event. He said that many of the speakers were chosen by Mr. Trump himself. Maybe not specifically some of the folks, but like the everyday people, as you described. He said, I want somebody that's experienced this, somebody that's experienced that. And, of course, people that said, yeah, I voted for Biden, but I'm now voting for Mr. Trump. But that Democrats have to be concerned when the head of the Teamsters speaks at a Republican convention. Now, I'll acknowledge that I wasn't crazy about his message. It was a very anti-corporate, pro-union message, and I didn't really care for that. Folks that listen to my show know that much of the content of that speech is not consistent with my views and beliefs. But nonetheless, I think he sees, I'm talking about Mr. O'Brien himself, the Teamsters head, I think he sees that perhaps the Democrat Party is not the home for his union.
Sure.
And for workers. I mean, that was the message I got of it. And you're exactly right. He stopped short of a full-throated endorsement of Mr. Trump. But nonetheless, he was on that stage speaking at a Republican National Convention with the president in the nominee in the House. Incredible.
So here's my question. When J.D. Vance is named the vice presidential nominee, and certainly a Republican and a supporter of Donald Trump that has transitioned into that role, but he's a populist candidate, and much of the working class identifies with him. And then you have the Teamsters Union president who speaks. I get what you're saying about not being wild about the kind of anti-corporate, anti-big business piece of it. Is there a home now, or are we moving toward a home within the Republican Party where both of those entities and both of those viewpoints can live together?
It's possible. In my view, it comes down to policy. And what I don't want to see, because we as Republicans don't believe this, is, for example, an increase in corporate taxes. We believe that corporate taxes should be lowered. In fact, I'd like to see total elimination of corporate taxes, honestly. I think we gain a lot from that. So I do think there's some common ground, however, and that is that the Democrats seem to have gravitated more towards the so-called wealthy elites in our country, seem to get their attention and support. And I do think to a great extent Mr. Trump was created because both parties sort of got to a point where they ignored the common everyday person, and that's why I think so many identify with Mr. Trump. I think that's a good reason, or a good part of the reason he selected J.D. Vance as his running mate. Young guy, unbelievable story, as you know. He did not come from money. He's a self-made man, came from very difficult circumstances. I think a lot of people identify with that, and I think he gives them hope. Yes, this can be achieved in this country, and Mr. Trump's message is we want to preserve that opportunity.
And, I mean, there is some threading of the needle that has to happen to make what and I think the way you describe it is, it has to do with policy and I don't know, maybe maybe corporations are able to take care of the everyday worker in a way that they couldn't otherwise if those corporate taxes that you're talking about are lessened or that burden is lessened. I don't know. I'm not sure smart enough to debate economic theory with you, Gerard, but it really is a fascinating dynamic. But here's the other part of it. So many of the working class Americans, whether you're talking about in Mississippi or Ohio or West Virginia, they identify more with parts of the Republican Party than they do with what the Democrats are selling.
No question. Absolutely no question. And I think that has got to be a concern to the Democrats, and their approach to countering that, honestly, is just with a lot of rhetoric and a lot of just touting of economic accomplishments that, frankly, aren't true, Richard. And I spent a lot of time debunking that on the program, but the average person is really not sure. But you know what they are sure of? Is when they go to the gas station and when they go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Their eyes do not, and nor do their pocketbooks deceive them. And I think that message from the Democrats is being very effectively combated by reality. And that's
I think that's a great point, Gerard, because, whether it's, the Biden camp wants to claim, unemployment rate is here and inflation is here and all those things. And, you can show me all the graphs you want to, but I have to swipe my credit card when I go to the gas pump, and I know it's more now than it was 4 years ago. I know a gallon of milk costs more. I know my overall grocery bill on a monthly basis is darn near double what it was 4 years ago. So talk to me all you want to about big picture economics. What does it do to my wallet? And to me, that's what matters the most.
The best outdoor advertising, I think, for Mr. Trump are the signs at all the gas stations showing the price of gas.
You may be on to something. What do you expect tonight, Gerard, at the convention on day 2? Got 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's my understanding we're going to have another series of speeches tonight. No business session. Of course, the formal roll call nomination occurred yesterday in the business session, so no business today. We do have Governor Tate Reeves is hosting a luncheon for the delegates today, so I think we're just going to get more powerful speeches.
Gerard, certainly appreciate it. Enjoy the time in Milwaukee. Look forward to hearing all the stories when you get back home. We'll talk to you soon.